the Cottage Studio. Welcome to the movie review, and as always, I'm your host, Ho Ho. How y'all's doing? I hope you're doing good. I really do. Today we are covering an awesome movie franchise, The Matrix. I love this franchise. I really do, because there's a couple reasons why I'm a huge fan. First, and not even the biggest reason, but it's kind of for the same reason that I'm a huge fan of George Lucas with Star Wars. Okay, with Episode 4, it's a lot with that same kind of thing. Okay, because here's the thing. With George Lucas doing Episode 4, prior to that, there was no such thing as special effects, people that were like a dedicated field. Okay, it didn't exist at all before George Lucas. He made and started Industrial Light and Magic, or whatever the name of it was, Industrial whatever. And he's shown people something new and made it relevant for the first time in movie history. He really did. Not only did he show people, like writers and directors, what is possible when you have a team of people dedicated to do that, he also showed production companies that there is a market for those type of movies. Completely revolutionized filmmaking. And it changed the course of how people make movies. It really did. Revolutionized the space. The Matrix did the same thing with bullet time. Okay? I mean, it really did. It made something, had to figure out how to make it work, and it did it in such a way that, wow. So cool. Now, here's the thing, what amazes me about this, what I'm actually kind of surprised about, is that you don't see bullet time utilized any more than what you do. I mean, you really don't see it utilized at all, and maybe it's a small difference in, writers and directors versus, what have you, because in George Lucas's time, you had people, writers, directors that wanted to tell those kind of stories, but one didn't, just wasn't able to do it, didn't have the backing, didn't have the ability, or, with production that, didn't, producers wouldn't back such a project. I mean, they were limited on that, but people wanted to make those kind of movies, but there just wasn't a market and there wasn't the ability to do it, or at least so they thought. But with The Matrix, maybe it's a difference in dichotomy. It's not so much that the technology isn't there, that, producers aren't willing to back such a movie that utilizes it, but maybe it's the aspect of writers haven't caught up to that yet. Maybe, that maybe they just haven't done this without it more or less look like a complete ripoff of The Matrix. I mean, in all honesty, the only time I have seen bullet time utilized in Hollywood on the big screen is actually in a movie that, okay, you're going to laugh at me, Shrek. And it was paying homage culturally directly to The Matrix. I mean, it was like an animated version of, Trinity fighting the cops in like the opening sequence of The Matrix. I mean, it really was. That's just how it happened. And it was cool though. I mean, it really was, it was paying homage. So again, I'm surprised that you don't see that utilized more often. Now, another thing about The Matrix that I found riveting. Okay. It's the idea that they took that type of dystopian into a different direction, because it wasn't the dystopian that was, the main thing about it. It wasn't the battle between man and machine. It wasn't about AI taking control and that war that would happen, that wasn't really, that was the setting, but that wasn't really what the movie was about. Okay. Unlike so many different movies out there, like iRobot, like The Terminator, unlike those movies where, the dystopian is about what's possible if we grow our creation to a point to where obviously the creation is going to outgrow us and become self-aware. That is the warning label that is thrown onto all of those movies like that. But that's not what they did here in The Matrix. I mean, yes, it takes place in a world where AI becomes self-aware and there is a war. Yes, it takes place in that. But that's not what the movie's about. That's just the setting that it takes place in. What's amazing is how they're telling the story of what it is about. Because, and all of this takes place between more or less Neo and the Oracle whenever they meet for the first time in the original movie. Because on that plaque is those words that's written in Latin that mean know thyself or know yourself. However she says it, I don't remember, but it's know yourself, And what was cool about it was, and this kind of ties into part 4 being a different approach to it. But in part 1, it wasn't, it was about destiny. That's what it was about. It was about exploring destiny because, Neo was the one. There's debate on that. We'll get into that later. But Neo being the one, him never believing he was the one. Trinity believed it, more or less. And she believed it way earlier than Neo believed it because, let's remember, because here's the crazy part about it though, because, if Neo from the onset, okay, would have just grabbed a hold of the idea that he was the one, his path that was laid out before him would have been easier. Instead, what the Oracle had to do was not tell him his future because she lied to him. No, you're not the one. Or maybe she was telling the truth. And yeah, we'll get into that later. But it was what he needed to hear to guide him to the truth, which that redirect, that path may have actually been harder than the original path. I mean, yeah, but that's more or less what happened though, isn't it? Because instead of just grabbing a hold of it and fighting as though he is the one and doing everything that we come to find out later in the series of what he can do, or actually even later in that very movie of what he can do, instead he runs. And in doing so, Morbius gets caught in the middle of a city, no way to go in or out without the program knowing virtually instantly that he is there. As soon as the fight starts, I mean, getting in is one thing, getting out is completely different. And the path that he had to take to come to the realization that he is the one, debate later, was a harder path. Remember in this, whenever he's trying to tell them that, hey, look, let's go back in. Let's get Morpheus out. I can do this. What was all of their reaction? You're full of crap. You're standing there telling me that you're not the one, and yet what you are proposing is so impossible that the only way that anybody could pull it off, or the only person that can pull it off, is the one. This is insanity. This is crazy. That to me was so freaking cool when my mind wrapped around that concept. Wow. I thought that was awesome. Okay. I thought that was really, really cool. And it's more or less, and not really talking all that much on part 2, because that was a continuation of part, of part 1, but part 3 is where they really, it's where some things really came to light. You know, that's whenever things kind of started to get real, if you don't mind me saying, okay? Because what ended up happening is, you know, you come to find out that this has happened numerous times. The architect that is in control of the Matrix, no matter how many times he tries to get rid of the anomaly, yeah. No matter how many times he tries to get rid of Neo and makes it to where he never enters the world of the Matrix, no matter how many times he tries, he fails each and every time. And each and every time it winds up the same. But this time was different. This time, this Neo was so unique that his power to change reality extended it didn't just exist within the program of the Matrix, it extended beyond the Matrix with his ability to control, to manipulate, to affect machines even in the real world. Crazy. And it was all because of the love that he had for one person. Wow. That is so freaking cool. I mean, how amazing is that? You know, watching that play out was so freaking cool. And the heartbreak you had when Trinity dies at the end. And then the heartbreak you had further when Neo, after completing his task, after surrendering to inevitability, he dies. And it's like, you know, and I tell you what, I was not convinced whenever I watched that episode, whenever I watched Resurrection. No, not Resurrection. Whenever I watched whatever part 3 was, Revolutions. Okay. I wasn't convinced because it's like, dude, you know, in movies, you're not dead until you're dead and buried or blown up. And even then, I mean, you know, things can happen. You know, you can write somebody back into existence. You know, I mean, it's the way that it is. Okay. Things can happen. You can come back, you know, whatever. So I wasn't convinced he was gone because you don't see him die. I mean, they kind of tell you that, you know, he died in the real world or he died in the Matrix, therefore his communication, you know, that he dies in the real world too. But at the same time, you know, he was shot and killed and was dead. But yet, you know, after Agent Smith and the other agents shot him, or Agent Smith alone, he came back after that, after he was dead, after his heart stopped. But it was only after Trinity believed in him did he finally grab a hold to the concept that he was the one. It was only after Trinity. You know, not only was, you know, the thing that made him different, the thing that made him special was his love for somebody else, not the entirety of the human race, but his one. That is so cool. And it was only after she believed in him that he believed in himself. That's what differentiated himself. So we already know that he can come back. So why would this time be any different? And then we come to part 4. The Matrix Resurrected. And that one was cool. Because this one, they take the, you know, they kind of change it. Not change it, yeah, you know, but it's still not about the AI. It's still not about the battle between man and machine. In fact, they completely rewrite the script. I mean, not rewrite the script. I mean, you know, I mean, they take it in a direction that, I mean, we've not really seen before. After a war, it's man and machine living together. Yes, they're still the Matrix. Yes, they're still being used as a battery, but man has learned to coexist with machine and vice versa. They work in concert together. That is cool. You know, a completely different direction than what we normally see. Especially all within the same concept. I mean, yeah, we've seen what happens when machine becomes self-aware. Yes, we've seen the war. Yeah, we've even seen us win the war. But the story after the victory, I don't think we've ever really seen that. Not in a coexistence type of a thing. At least I can't recall. I don't recall it. But with this one is what they talk about isn't about somebody's, journey into fulfilling his destiny. That's not what this one is about. As in the Matrix Resurrection, it's about choice. It's about the illusion of choice. Because, it explores this in two different aspects. Okay, it explores it as in our own inner dealings. I mean, I guess a better way to put this would be, nature and nurture, two different ways. Okay, inside pull and outside pull. All right. It talks about this as in, because of our nature, because of who we are, there are some choices that to us aren't really choices. And they're not. Kind of like whenever, you had this one person that was talking to another, and it's like, your choice is this or this, but there really isn't a choice because you are the person that does this. It is your nature. You will do this. Your inside being will dictate to the point to where even though you technically have choice, you really don't have a choice because it's simply put, not who you are. If it was, you wouldn't be you. And that's an aspect they explore in this. But they also explore it in a different way. Because the doctor giving Neo the drugs to better, to better cope with his new reality gives him the blue pill that forces him to stay in the Matrix. He goes through withdrawals on this because his body is pumped so full with the blue pill, with the pill that keeps him in bondage. And that is a nurture aspect of it, the outside influence that goes beyond you, because if it was his choice, the choice is clear. The choice was the red pill. But the outside influence didn't give him a choice. The choice was, it wasn't a choice. It was the blue pill. Wow. But nature versus nurture. Just this entire series was less about a dystopian world of man and machine and more of a psychological suspense thriller, what have you, dealing with destiny, the path we travel to get to the truth, and then in choice, whether it be from internal conflict or external conflict, the choices that we choose. Amazing. And I've never, at least that I can recall, I've never seen that type of thing play out, and it's hard in Hollywood to have an original idea, an original concept, an original plot. And I'm sure that this type of thing has been done before. But not that I can recall. Okay? Not that I can recall. Now, if you can recall of one, let me know. Let me know down in the comments below on Spreaker, on the YouTube. Of course, if you're on one of the other myriad of places where the podcast can be found, You're going to have to email me, hoho@thehohoshow.com. That's the absolute easiest way in order to do this. Otherwise, I do see your comments. I really do. And that participation is absolutely amazing. I love it. It's cool. It really is. So now let's go into a little bit of something different. Something that I've kind of hinted about a little bit, and that is with the one. There's been a lot of debate on who's the one. Okay, because this whole entire story is predicated on finding the one. And the two options that we have, or the two options that has been, that has been the two options that we really have is, of course, Neo, what most people would consider to be the obvious choice, because that's what the show is about, is Neo's journey. But is it? Because the other option in this entire thing, and when you actually take a look at what is prophesied and who actually has the power, is it Neo? Or is it somebody else? A program going by the name of Agent Smith. Because the prophecy said the one. And in a matter of speaking, Agent Smith is the obvious choice, because if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong on this, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was somebody in the Matrix that grew beyond and learned how to alter the Matrix and rewrite it to his own liking. Did Neo do that? Or did Agent Smith? Let's look at this another way. One of the things in Resurrections that actually kind of surprised me, but yet I can also kind of understand it, is that Neo really wasn't able to fly. The first one that was able to do that was Trinity, not Neo. Even though they kind of tell us that, yes, he did fly, so I mean, there's that possibility there, but we don't see it until the very end, okay? But it also surprised me, and of which case another aspect of this is also because the Matrix is of a different code. It's not the same code, okay? It's not the same platform that the original Matrix was on. They reworked it. And maybe in them reworking it, maybe that is the reason why Neo never was able to manipulate the Matrix as he was able to in the original Matrix. That could be why, and that would at least be understandable. That would also, kind of explain why it was Trinity that was able to do that before Neo was, and Trinity taught Neo how to do it in the next evolution of the Matrix. And that would at least make sense. But yet there was somebody else in there that was able to step outside and surpass and overcome the reverse bullet time. Because you had the doctor, Doogie Howser, which I don't remember what his name was in this. I don't recall what his title was. But the only person that was able to step outside that and wasn't prohibited by it, that wasn't affected by it, was Mr. Smith, was Agent Smith. It wasn't Neo. Neo never did. He couldn't overcome that update in the Matrix. Now, maybe it's because he was of a previous model, but it's still him. But he never was able to overcome that. But Agent Smith, however, did. Is Agent Smith the one? Because let's remember, he was of the Matrix. He rewrote the Matrix to his own liking. The Matrix became his creation. He's the only one that was able to affect both versions of the Matrix. The only one. And his actions did bring about and would have brought about, even if Neo didn't end up winning, well, it still would have brought an end to the war, because the Machine City was going after Zion and intended on destroying, killing everybody. I mean, it would have effectively ended the war. Not the outcome we wanted, but it would have been the outcome that we got, and it would have been effective. Just saying. So who was the one? Was the one Neo, or was the one Agent Smith? Now, what I also thought was cool was, of course, they brought Neo back. They explained it. It was the original Neo. It was very, very cool. I loved how they did it. Yes, they brought Trinity back. It was the original Trinity. I loved how they did it. It was very, very nice. They also brought back Morpheus. They also brought back Agent Smith, but it wasn't the same. And in fact, what was actually interesting about it is, as part of the program, yes, you had Agent Smith in it, and that was the boss, the head guy within the company that Mr. Anderson worked for. But you also had another Agent Smith in it as well, and that was in the character that was in the Matrix that he was building, which was just freaking cool, wasn't it? Because what you had was Neo in working through his dreams, where he remembered everything that was going on, and the way of which the Matrix, the program, tried to explain to him what was going on was that he was crazy, and he was building this game that was of the Matrix, and that's how they explained the whole thing to him, but yet he wasn't able to differentiate realities, and he wasn't able to do that. And he, in creating the game in the Matrix, of the Matrix, the original Matrix, which was amazing, by the way, multi-level stuff going on, he created a blending of two characters that were completely necessary to how Neo became Neo. Neo became the one, and that was in Morpheus and Mr. Smith, because that's who, the Morpheus of the game that Mr. Anderson created in the updated version of the Matrix that was a memory of the original Matrix. That's how all of that played out. That is the character that he created to work through that. It was just freaking cool. But yet they explain it. They explain why Mr. Smith doesn't look like Mr. Smith. They explain why Morpheus doesn't look like Morpheus. He had a different role in this one, and pushed him in similar but still a different way. But what I also thought was cool was that Niobe was in it. Okay, the captain, she was in it. I thought that as well was really freaking cool. Yes, they brought back Neo, Keanu Reeves. Yes, they brought back who's her face? Trinity. But they also brought back Niobe. But another person that they brought back that I thought was really, really cool how they did it, and they made it relative, or not relative, but they made it, they explained it, and they made it necessary in the movie, and that was Seraph. Okay, the little girl from episode 3, but I think episode 2. No, episode 3. Okay, the little girl, whenever he's in the train station, the little girl. Okay, the little girl is the same person that was Seraph, the person who it was the same girl. I thought that was cool that they used the same actor in that. They brought back an original character from the original Matrix, a program. And they used the same person. It was the same character. They used the same person. I thought that was cool. They hadn't done that in Mr. Smith is a different Mr. Smith. Morpheus is a different Morpheus. There is no Oracle, because Oracle was a program that was purged from the original. The Architect is not a character, a program that was purged from the original. But you also had, I forgot about this, you also had the Merrill Vinci. You also have him coming back from part 2 and part 3. I thought that was cool too. How they ended up doing it. It was totally awesome. In other words, I'm a fan of the movies. I liked it. I liked how they did it. I thought it was really cool. Okay, look, I'm from an era in movie making where you would have one concept that was awesome, and then you would get a sequel that is a mockery of the original, just trying to capitalize on name recognition, on brand recognition, and it ended up being crap. That's an era that I'm used to, of how old I am. But nowadays, what you get, like, especially with Lord of the Rings, isn't that so much as, with The Matrix, because it was one movie that was stretched out into 3 parts. And then the sequel was Resurrection. But 1, 2, and 3 was the same movie, just separated in 3 parts. And we see that more and more with things like Lord of the Rings. 1 movie, 3 parts. The Hobbit series, 1 movie, 3 parts. Now I can't really say this so much in dealing with, the Harry Potter, because it's not movies, it's books. Well, I mean, so is, Game of Thrones, but that's totally different. That's one of the things that we have now. They're getting better about doing that. Because, let's face it, we got fed up with capitalizing on sheer name recognition and being lazy and making something that people ultimately didn't want to see. And that's one of the reasons why I think Resurrection did so horrible in the box office. Because, all right, you had The Matrix that came out in 1999, the first one. The second and third one, Reloaded and Revolutions, came out in 2003, and then Resurrection came out in 2021, 18 years later. Okay. Now, let me scroll down to this. Okay. The budget versus box office gross worldwide. Okay. And the first one did really good. 467 million with a 63 million budget. The Matrix Reloaded, almost 742 million with a $150 million budget, the same budget that Revolutions had, the third one, that grossed not near as good, but 427,000. And then by all intents and purposes, The Matrix Resurrections, the newest one, tanked at the box office because it had a $190 million budget and it only made just over 157,000. Wow. So I don't see there being a part 5. I could be wrong because, let's face it though. Things have kind of changed when it comes to how people view movies. Okay. A lot of things has changed in the course of, 3 years, 5 years. A lot of things has changed. With streaming and everything else. Okay, I don't go to the movies very often. It's got to be an amazing movie for me to go to it. It really does. I don't just go to theaters anymore. But that's how they look at this. That's the metrics by which they use. Because one person, one seat, one ticket is the best method to use. But I've never been one that really liked to go to movies. I would much rather wait until it came to video, or in today's day and age came to a streaming platform, and then I would watch it. In the comfort of my own home, being able to press pause, get up, get me a drink, go to the bathroom, get something to eat. That's the way I prefer to do it. I mean, granted, I've watched a handful of movies in the theater, but it's got to be a good movie for me to go to theaters and see it. Otherwise, I'm waiting. And I waited on this one. I wanted to see it, but I waited. I was skeptical, but I didn't see the point of going to theaters and seeing it. I was fine waiting. And I think a lot of people kind of do movies the same way. I don't want to say that theaters is dead, but we've changed how we consume videos, how we watch movies. Streaming has changed that, not to mention COVID. It's changed that. So I don't know. So that's all I got for you today. The next episode, we're going to be talking, which is why I covered The Matrix, because we are doing another actor spotlight, and that is Keanu Reeves, one of the greatest actors of our time. Phenomenal actor. I'm excited to do this one, to learn more about him, and just because there's some people in Hollywood that are just complete jerks, but he does not seem like he's one of those people. So I'm actually kind of, I'm excited to do this one. I think it'll be pretty cool. So y'all, that is all I got for you today. I appreciate you stopping by. I appreciate you participating. I appreciate it. I really do. And till next time, y'all have a good one.